What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So we're breaking down the cornerback group for the 2023 New York Jets undrafted free agent class. Probably the more uninteresting groups for the New York Jets, just considering looking at the cornerback depth chart. All-Pro in Sauce Gardner. What should have been an All-Pro in DJ Reed. You have a very underrated slot cornerback in Michael Carter II. Brandon Echols, who's jumped over Bryce Hall, who was originally a few years ago our number one cornerback. And probably while not star-studded, of course, he went out there and did well when it came to denying the ball to a receiver. He just wasn't scary in terms of being able to flip the field and do other things. Wasn't a top-notch defender by any means, but definitely adequate. A low-tier number one, in my opinion, at the time anyways. Potentially above average anywhere. He's in that range. So when you take a look at the undrafted free agent class, not to say that is uninspiring, but no matter who we brought in, it was going to be hard for a player at that position to crack the roster. Actually, Zach Rosenblatt kind of ranked our undrafted free agent class as well, and he had him as the last feasible option to make the practice squad for the Jets, just because we don't really need anything in that group. If nothing else, if he makes the group, I think you bet on the fact that you don't really probably re-up Bryce Hall. You have to consider what's going to happen with Brandon Echols afterwards. Kind of that long-term projection. But what our undrafted free agent, Derrick Langford out of Washington State, is going to bring to us is something you can definitely try to cultivate. Definitely something that's going to be a little bit rarer in the NFL. So, as mentioned, out of Washington State, one of the few guys, I think it's the only guy up until this point that hasn't gone through transfers. He didn't switch schools, anything like that. 6'3", 200 to about 205 pounds. 28 starts, a lot of that coming over his final 2 years. 39 games overall. Plays his best ball in a off coverage defense. Cover 3 would be something that you consider potentially a strong suit of his, right? I take a look at the zone attributes. I take a look at what he should be able to do in man coverage. You like what you see out of a guy like this, but his best plays have definitely come when he has the ball in front of him. If his head's turned away, it's going to be some problems, right? Ultimately, with this guy, I think what you look at is that he has the tools in terms of if you want to create a guy in the lab, right? But he was very much so at his best. I don't want to say he's lockdown corner status, but at his best, he's a guy that's going to go out there and try to nullify his side of the field. At worst, he's a guy that gets picked on. And so that's a scary fall off, right, when you talk about the ceiling versus the floor. But 6'3", 200 pounds, you can't teach that. 2022, he's coming off 39 tackles, 6 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, was able to return one of those for a touchdown. He actually had 2 more interceptions the year before this as well. And overall, he's just, done a good job being able to be around the play, get in on the play, make some things happen. So excited to see that. Not a lot of guys that, even if they can get interceptions, can make things happen. You get that with a guy like Derrick. Physical, that's the first thing you'll hear from a lot of guys when you check out the scouting reports, when you check out the interviews, what guys are saying when they have to, prepare for matchups against him. Good route recognition, quick hits. That's one of the things. Excuse me. His maneuverability, I think, is one of the things that a lot of teams would have looked at when they were considering, do we want to draft this guy in, the last couple of rounds? What are we thinking when it comes to priority undrafted free agents? 6'3", it's in the Sauce Gardner mold. Quick hips, not exactly the same as Sauce Gardner, but he's a guy that can turn and move with guys and do different things like that. So it's something that you love to see. Good tackling technique. And then again, a lot of people are going to harp on the size with him. Ultimately, though, opportunities-wise, he's been susceptible to a lot of moves. So guys don't even have to hit him with a double move. You can get him with a head fake. You can get him with a hezzy. Little tricky releases that receivers might have are going to be pretty effective against them at the moment. Doesn't seem like there's any one thing that's causing that for him. He's just a guy that kind of wants to press the action, and so he's susceptible to stuff like that. fails to turn his head around. So this is why I say his best plays come with the ball in front of him. If you're catching him in an intermediate to deep range, even short, if you catch him where his back is turned to the quarterback, he's a guy that's going to play the ball. When the receiver is trying to catch it, he's going to play the receiver's face mask instead of the hands. If you take a look at Sauce Gardner, for example, when he did get, catches that got past his coverage, he attacked the receiver's hands always, and 9 times out of 10 it worked with the play being called dead. Derrick, on the other hand, happens to play the face mask, and so he's looking for the eyes. He's trying to kind of, blur the vision and chance what's going to happen there. More often than not, these receivers are going to be able to take advantage of that. And generally, I mean, for the most part, that's really kind of what you get out of this guy. He brings the NFL size. I think he's almost like the equivalent of TJ Luther, who we recently covered for the defensive side. He brings the size. You can see the playability. You can see the skills that he's going to bring in, something that you can try to mold and develop. But the consistency there just wasn't there. Some of the more fundamental things with playing the cornerback position just aren't there that you'd love to see. But this is a guy that could be interesting 2 to 3 years down the line. Again, when you talk about trying to replace a Bryce Hall, when you talk about trying to replace a Brandon Echols, it's not a guy that's going to play the slot. So, maybe DJ Reed at some point, if we can't re-up a contract with him, hitting over, I think he'll actually be under age 30. He'll be like 28 or something. So we'll actually see how that works out. But this is a guy, again, kind of a long shot. If they do make a spot for him, he's not a guy that, from my understanding, has necessarily played a lot of special teams either. This will really be a stash and develop type player that you hope you bring the size, you bring the quick, fluid hips, you bring the physicality, and you hope you can kind of work and build around that. So, again, kind of working within the scheme that we got. We'll see if he sticks around and, makes his presence known. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are, and I'll catch you again. Peace.